Hi, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hey, how you doing? My name is Ash. I'm a makeup artist and book lover, and today's video is going to be a get ready with me where I do my makeup. Not necessarily loving what I did today, but it is what it is, and I chat about all 26 books that I read in March. So I surprised myself by reading as much as I did in March, but I'm honestly not surprised that I got through so many because I wasn't making content. I was on a road trip for a weekend and I just had a lot of free time to really delve into books, and it was a really good reading month for me. Like I said, I read 26 books. 6 books were on my Kindle, 20 books were from my physical TBR pile, and I'm so excited. I had my husband pick a number of how many books I should read in March, and he said 30, so I drew about 30 books to read next month, but that video will be up on my TikTok and Bookstagram later where I show you what I drew. But without further ado, I shouldn't ramble as much as I do. Let's just get started in me doing the makeup and talking about all the books that I read. Alright, so like I said in the intro, I have a ton of books to get through. Let me get my moisturizer on first. I'm still finishing up the Biossance, Squalane, and Probiotic gel moisturizer. I love this stuff. I'm gonna be so sad when this is empty, but I have a few other moisturizers to get through. So let's start just talking about books. I'm gonna try to keep this going pretty fast. I don't want to give like any spoilers about anything, but the first book I read in March was Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is book 4 in the Chestnut Spring series, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. So Reckless follows Theo Silva. He is a bull rider just like Rhett. He's actually Rhett's protege. This is a story about Theo and Summer's half-sister Winter. So Winter is getting out of a really bad marriage, what she went through in her marriage and what her husband did, which you find out what he did in the first book. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like jail. Theo and Winter, they end up having a one-night stand where she finds out that she gets pregnant, and time skip ahead. And that's all I want to say about that. I thought that this was really well done. I really enjoyed the banter in it. When you first start the Chestnut Spring series and you first learn about Winter, you don't like her. But then you read her story and it's like, I get you now. Like, I get it. I thought that this was super cute, and if I didn't say it already, I gave this a 4.5 star rating. If you're interested in how I rate books, on my Bookstagram, I have a pinned post where I explain my ratings, but basically I rate based on how it makes me feel. Not so much if it's written really well or not. I mean, I will give it a lower rating if like the writing is atrocious, but I like this. I'm gonna move on to browse as I talk about the last book in the Chestnut Spring series. This is Hopeless. This is Beau's story. This involves Beau and Bailey. It is an age gap. It is a fake dating scenario, more like a fake engagement. There's a little bit of animosity because Beau's family does not like Bailey's family, and it has nothing to do with Bailey. It's her brothers that are the issue. Beau, you learn in the third book, he went MIA. He is a Canadian military person. This takes place in Canada. I ended up giving that book a 5-star rating because I really enjoyed the banter between Bailey and Beau. I thought that they complemented each other very well, and you didn't feel like the age gap was like too big of a deal. I think she's like early 20s and he's like mid 30s. In real life I have an issue with that, but like in books, like I can look past it. For browse, I'm using the Alma by Sharon C. For this book, like both characters, they have their own issues. Beau is a little, I'd say, rough around the edges because of, you know, him always being on tour. Bailey has her own issues because she's had to deal with basically disruptive, almost abusive, not almost, like abusive family, and she just really wants to get out because they kind of, Beau and Bailey kind of make a deal that Beau can help her life turn around if she's not tied to her last name anymore. She's gonna be a Ethan now, and she's like, it doesn't matter what my name is, the town's not gonna like me, and they're trying to prove each other right and wrong. It's very nice how it all comes together. And one thing I absolutely loved about the entire Chestnut Spring series is at the end there's bonus scenes in each book that deals with their father, Harvey Eaton. They're so great. They're so great. I'm going to contour with my NYX Wonderstick. I'm not going to do a heavy contour. Just a little bit. I'm just running to Target when I get done because I need to pick up some groceries. So next two books I read were from Devney Perry. I have Jasper Hale and Sable Peak. Jasper Hale is the 4th book in the Eden series, and Sable Peak is the 6th book, and this is the final book in the Eden series. I really enjoyed this series. I will say, out of these ones, they weren't necessarily like my favorite. I still think the 2nd book was my absolute favorite in the series. That was with Knox and Memphis. Was it Knox and Memphis? I know Memphis was the girl's name. I'm terrible with names. Jasper Vale is about Eloise Eden and Jasper Vale. Eloise is wanting to take over the Eloise Inn. It's their family's inn in Quincy, Montana. And she had this belief that her parents weren't going to let her take over management, running the hotel by herself, because they did originally offer it to her brother Knox. She's like, okay, I gotta be smart, responsible, blah blah blah. I can't let my parents think I'm not responsible. At the end of the 3rd book, they're in Las Vegas. Eloise ends up getting a little too drunk, and Jasper ends up getting a little too drunk. I think my ring light's dying. But they end up getting a little too drunk and they end up getting married. They decide to hide what happened in Vegas. Eventually it comes out and he's like, we gotta stay together and go to a wedding, which would be my ex's wedding. Crazy. And Sable Peak involves Mateo, he's the youngest Eden, and Vera Gallagher, who you meet in the 5th book. Crimson River, you meet Vera Gallagher. I don't want to go too much into her story because it's really tied into the 5th one, but basically she becomes almost like an honorary Eden, and she has an unrequited love for Mateo, and it all comes to a head and he has to figure out his feelings for her. And I honestly did not like this one as much as the others. I thought that this one could have been, I don't know, a little bit better. Like, I didn't hate it. I gave both of these books 4 stars, but I did like Jasper Vale a little bit more than this. Like, it's a great series, very quick reads. They are available on Kindle Unlimited, but I bought the books because they were getting rid of these covers and I didn't like the new covers. I liked it enough to buy the actual books, but they are available on Kindle Unlimited. I have this Hydromaniac Blush Glow Hydrator from Urban Decay. It's in the shade Wrecked. I've not used this in a while. I'm gonna put a little bit on underneath, and then I will put probably more on top because I really like this shade. At the beginning of March, I actually took a road trip down to Tennessee for my great uncle's funeral, and I took several books with me, and I read, I think, 6 or 7 books total on the drive there and back. So that's one of the reasons why I was able to have so many books read this month. So one of the books I brought was How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. This is in conjunction with the Folk of the Air series. This is stories about Carden. This is a story about Carden, who is the High King in the Fae world. And this is just really cute, very nice companionship to it. There's illustrations in it. It's about like Carden going to the mortal world for the first time, him falling in love with Jude, and just coming into his own. And I thought that this was really great, and I gave it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. The Folk of the Air series was so good, so good. Gonna move on to foundation. I was gonna use my About Face one again, but I'm changing it up to the Smashbox Halo Healthy Glow All-in-One Tinted Moisturizer. Not my color, but this is the lightest shade, and I actually quite like this. And then let's talk about There Are No Saints and There Is No Devil Duet by Sophie Lark. This is my first time reading Sophie Lark, and I will say I was pleasantly surprised. These are pretty short. I got through these in just a couple hours each book. So this book does deal with some heavy themes. There is serial killers, there is stalking, there is attempted murder, mutilation, and everything in between. The first book is There Are No Saints. This is about Cole Blackwell and Mara Eldridge. Cole is an artist and he requires control. Him and Mara, they end up crossing paths in an unconventional way that then leads him to stalking her. They end up kind of forming a relationship. She's also an artist, and he kind of takes her in and ends up protecting her, all the while like fighting his feelings for her. There Is No Devil is the second book in the duet, and this just continues their story about him protecting her from his basically, I mean, it's kind of lame to say like arch nemesis, but that's kind of what was going on. And it's actually pretty interesting how it's done. I like reading books about artists and what they do, and I don't know, these were really good. I ended up giving both books a 4. I think overall it would be like a 4.5 for the two together, but I like these enough that I think I'm going to try more books from Sophie Lart. So if you've read any other stories from her, let me know. I'd be happy to check those out. But I'm on a very strict book ban, even though I just bought books a couple days ago. I'm going to go in with a little more coverage while I quickly talk about the manga Death Note short stories. This is obviously a manga. It's manga, right? Not manga. But this is like 5 short stories. This is years after Light dies, and it involves Ryuk and, you know, other people like L, and how you just can't trick gods of death, the Shinigami. I really enjoyed it. Death Note is still my top anime and manga. Things have come close to it, but like it still holds my heart. It's my favorite. It's why I have Ryuk on my arm and L. I love it. I kind of want to get Rem tattooed because I really enjoyed Rem and Misa Mane, but I don't need any more anime tattoos. Moving on to concealer, I'm just going to use the Fenty, the Pro Filter one in the shade 100. I really want to try the hydrating one, but I haven't really bought new makeup in a while. But the other book I read was Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. This is my first time trying this author. This is basically a kind of new age werewolf story. I ended up giving this a 4-star rating. This did take me a little bit to get into, but once like you get past like the first, like I'd say like 6 chapters, you kind of really get into it. I find when I'm starting like a new author, I really have to like, it takes me a couple chapters to get into their writing style. But this follows Rory. She moves back to her hometown to help out her twin sister who found out that she was pregnant. Basically, she didn't want to go back to this town. One night in her hometown, she's out with an old friend, Ian, who basically they were best friends in high school. And this is like 15 years after high school. I think they're late 20s, early 30s. He still has feelings for her, and she kind of has feelings for him, but kind of like doesn't like feelings. Anyway, she ends up leaving the bar. She's not drunk, and she's driving down the road. It's dark, and she hits something. She gets out of her car to see what she hit. I think she hit like a deer or something, but it was already dead. And then she's attacked by some beast, and she wakes up the next morning in the woods with, you know, lots of injuries on her. This just ensues her realizing what's happening to her, how she's slowly becoming what she is, and basically just surviving becoming a werewolf. But it's actually pretty good. I am actually a big fan of werewolf and like vampire stories, so this is like right up my alley. It's not spicy, and it's not so much a romance. It's just basically a woman and her twin sister and just dealing with life and what life throws at you, and I quite enjoyed it. I need a set with my Anastasia powder. I talk way too much in this, but I love books. I am so glad that I started reading again and just doing and making these videos, even though like nobody likes them. I'm gonna set the rest of my face with my Kiko powder and talk about the next 3 books that I read, which were from Tessa Bailey. I read the books Chase Me, Need Me, and Make Me. This is her series Broken Beautiful. There's only 3 books in this. Actually quite short, not too hard to read. I will say, if you're buying these at like Target, like the size of a book is like $15. I bought all these on Book Outlet for $5 or under. So just saying, if you see a book that you like and you're thinking that's too short of a book for that much money, check Book Outlet. They are great. Not sponsored, maybe one day. It's also just a cheaper book buying option. The first book is Chase Me. This involves Chase and Roxy. Need Me is Honey and Ben. And Make Me is Russell and Abby. Abby. I will say out of all these, I had the most issues with Need Me, and that is just because of the beginning of the book. But we'll start with Chase Me. So Roxy is an aspiring actress, and she has been having trouble. By the way, this takes place in New York. She's been having trouble getting gigs and, you know, building her career, and she ends up needing to find a new place to live, and she ends up answering an ad that leads her to Abby. Abby is like a trust fund girl, and she is living in an apartment by herself, and she's kind of like, I wouldn't say she's sheltered, but she doesn't really like have friends. She doesn't know how to make friends. She kind of just does her own thing. So that's how the three girls meet. Whereas Chase, Ben, and Russell, they're all friends already. Roxy meets Chase. She is a, what do you call it? One of those people that goes, the singing telegram, or like something like that. She is actually tasked with a job to go to Chase to deliver a message from his one night stand, and sparks instantly fly. They end up kissing right away, which is this is a very fast paced, like they meet, they kiss or screw, and go about it that way. But they have a kind of tumultuous beginning to the relationship, and like she's like very hot and cold, and he's like was a playboy, and he's trying to like do right by her. But it was cute. I gave this one a 4, whereas Need Me I gave a 3.5. I would even dock this down to like a 3-star, because with this book my issue was Honey is in college and Ben is a young English professor. Honey being friends with Roxy and Abby, they haven't met Ben and Russell yet. Honey knows who Ben is, but doesn't realize that he is Chase's best friend. They're having a get together at the girls' apartment, and this is all at the beginning of the book, so this isn't spoiling too much. They're having, you know, a little get together at the girls' apartment, and Honey offers to go downstairs to get extra chairs and the, you know, communal storage. The door not working, she ends up getting locked in, but Ben hears and he goes to open the door to give her a hand, not knowing who she is, and it's dark in there, the light bulb doesn't work, and the door closes and they're kind of trapped in. She recognizes his voice, he doesn't recognize her, so she realizes that that is her professor, and she makes a move on him without him knowing, and that just rubbed me wrong so much, because what you learn about Ben is he's very strict by the rules. He doesn't want to have a compromising relationship or anything because of what happened with his father and what it did to their family. And the fact that she knew who he was and still did something, and like he completely freaked out, was like, that's my student, I can't be with a student. It's like justified, but like they work it out. And the last book, Make Me, is Abby and Russell. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was so, like, it was cute. Russell meets Abby and is like instantly like smitten with her. He's like a construction worker. He owns his own construction company, and he doesn't think like he is, you know, right for Abby, so he's content with being her friend. And she is the most oblivious girl ever to this man. Something happens and he ends up being there for her, and she like sees him for the first time without a shirt, and she's like, huh, I might have feelings for this man. I'm gonna put a little more blush on. Basically, it's just these two figuring out their relationship as friends and then moving forward as more than friends. And I don't know, I thought it was cute. I think it's always fun when it's, you know, friends to lovers. Might have been my favorite of the 3. One thing that bothers me the most is this guy on this book. This is supposed to be Russell. This is supposed to be Russell. In all 3 books, they talk about how he is bald. No hair. What does this man have? Hair. Like, make the cover people match the descriptions on the inside. I'm gonna contour just a smidge. Probably don't need to contour. This is the Trick or Treat Carve Your Face palette from Trick or Treat. Did I say that, or did I say Creature Cosmetics? It's Creature Cosmetics Trick or Treat Carve Your Face palette. I'm probably gonna wear my hair down. Actually, I probably just will throw on a hat because I think it's raining. Highlight, this is the Colourpop Twilight Vampire Skin. I love this. I'm gonna go in with a brush. Maybe don't want to be like too highlighty today, but like want enough highlight. I do wonder how long that light has been off. I'm gonna go also in with a powder highlight. This is Twilight from Unearthly. I love this. It is so pretty. Definitely not the right brush for this. This is a like a contour brush, but I just want a little bit of everywhere. I love how sparkly this is. I don't know how much it's gonna pick up on my camera, but like in person, you just have glitter particles everywhere. I love it. Moving on, I have a few more books to talk about. I finally started and finished the Dreamland Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. I adored this series so much. So I definitely did end up giving all 3 books 5 stars. So the first book is the fine print. Then you have the second book, Terms and Conditions, and the third book is Final Offer. Now these are pretty big books, but you can read these so quickly. It's not that the story's fast paced, but it's written in a way where it's just like an easy read. You can really just like delve into it, and like before you know it, you're 100 pages in, and then before you know it, you're halfway through, and then you're done. I'll go in with a little bit of my faux freckles while I talk about that series. So the series is about the Kane brothers and their grandfather who passed away and left a will, and the will has contingencies on what they need to do in order to basically get their inheritance. Their grandfather started Dreamland. This is basically like a reimagined like Disneyland with like hot billionaires who are like emotionally stunted. Basically, in order for his grandsons to get their inheritance was millions or billions of dollars and shares of the amusement park, they had to go through some obstacles. First book is about the youngest Kane, Rowan, who has to basically go back to Dreamland. He hasn't been since he was a kid. He has to basically become like the director of Dreamland and fix what is wrong in the park. Rowan is very much, I don't see what the problem is. He looks at profits and everything. Profits are up, you know, more and more people are coming to the park, like nothing is amiss. And then he gets to the park and he meets Zara. She kind of opens his eyes to like what the issue is with the park, and like the issue is not with the profits, it's with the bottom line. It's the employees at the park and what they think and what they feel, and how Rowan agreed to like cut like budgets and screw them over on healthcare and everything, and he's learning very harshly what his choices have done to the hundreds of people that work for the company. So they eventually form a relationship. He is so, all the Kane brothers are so like emotionally, I say emotionally stunted, and that's like the best way I can describe it, where they're not in tune with emotions at all, and they meet these women that kind of make them feel, and it's just, I love that type of story. I'm gonna finish up my brows and talk about Terms and Conditions. Now this is with Declan and Iris. Declan, in order for him to secure his spot in the company, he has to be married and have a child. Very strange. He has to get married and have a child. And he has his assistant Iris, who has been helping him try to find a potential bride, basically someone who would sign an NDA and they'd be, you know, a husband and wife on paper only. They would have, it's basically a business transaction. And he has scared away basically everybody else. And Iris, in a frustrated fit, is like, fine, I'll marry you. And everybody's like, that's a terrible idea, because they don't like each other. Like, they don't like each other. Like, she's good at her job, she's good at managing what Declan needs done, being his assistant. She offers to do this, and basically feelings arise. Declan kind of learns that maybe what he feels isn't strange, and Declan's the oldest, so he basically, with his brothers, he kind of took over raising them when he was still like super young, because he tried to protect his brothers from what happened with their father. Anyway, so they have their relationship kind of grow from there, and they kind of become more of a husband and wife. And Declan has his issues, Iris has her issues, but the way that they grow together is so sweet. And honestly, I think this book may be my favorite just because of what Declan does to help Iris. Like, he is the pure grumpy billionaire guy, and he does things without anybody knowing to try to make her life better, because you learn that she is dyslexic, and he takes it upon himself to figure out what would help dyslexic people more, and he makes changes in the office, like company-wide, to make her job easier. And this was before he realized that he loves her. Like, I love that. And then last one, Final Offer. This one, it slightly broke my heart. This is with Callahan, and Alana. Basically, this is a second chance romance that his grandfather kind of threw him back into. His portion was he had to go back to their childhood house, like vacation house, which was in Michigan. So this takes place, technically Dreamland is in Florida, like Disney. Their headquarters is in Chicago, and then they had a like summer home in Michigan. He is tasked with going back to their vacation house and selling it. Sounds easy, right? Just gotta sell a house. But he hasn't been back to that house in over 7 years, because the last time he was there, he was with Alana, and he ends up breaking her heart and leaving. He comes back only to realize that the grandpappy put Alana on the deed, so she owns half the house, and he has to convince her to sell. Basically, the story is about them reconnecting. You learn why they kind of dispersed the way that they did. It does deal heavily with addiction. 7 years prior, Cal was addicted to prescription pills and alcohol. He since then has ditched the pills, but he's still reliant on alcohol, and that is a problem with Alana. She tried to help him work through it for the longest time, and then he left and broke her, and he's back and he's still drunk. There's a child involved now, and she just doesn't want to put up with him disappointing her. And I saw a lot of reviews talking about, after I finished it, reviews talking about how people didn't like Alana and how she treated Callahan. But unless you are in a position to where you are dealing with someone with addiction, or you are someone with addiction, you don't really have a good grasp on what they're going through. Not every addiction and the problems that arise is going to be the same for everyone. As someone who is dealing with someone with addiction, you have to take into account what you can handle, because it's not always going to be on you to help them. They have to want to help themselves first, and it's not wrong of you to put yourself first over the person with addiction if they are refusing to get help. It is okay to protect yourself. Some reviews were just saying how she should have just stuck by him and dealt with it, and that can destroy you just as much as addiction can. And yeah, I really did enjoy it. Definitely I like Declan the most, and then Rowan, and then Callahan, but overall the entire series was really great. I also read 6 books on my Kindle. Those were all short novellas. They were about 150 to 180 pages. So the series was, I'm going to pop up a photo here, it was SWAT Shifters by Bella Drake. So you had Wanted by the Werewolf, Guarded by the Grizzly, Held by the Hawk, Prized by the Polar Bear, Protected by the Panther, and Desired by the Dragon. So I'm not going to delve too much into each story, but I will say for the first 3 I gave 3 stars, the 4th and 5th book I gave 4 stars, and then the last book I gave 5 stars, mainly because I like dragons. It's an interconnected series about fated mates. This is more of a, since it's a novella, it's insta-love, insta-lust, and everything in between. Very fast-paced, and this, I want to zoom in because I'm going to do my eyes now. This is about a group of SWAT. It's a SWAT team, and they're all different shifters, and they end up at different points meeting their fated mates. I'm going to do something simple, so I'm just going to go in with my Twilight palette from Colourpop, and I'm just going to take some of the light shades and just do a light wash. I think I'm going to do a wing today. So it's a 6-person team. There is 1 woman on the team. She is a Panther shifter. Wasn't much to it. They were quick, enjoyable reads. I mainly read it while I was on my treadmill. I probably won't read anything else by the author, but they were quick reads. I enjoyed them for what they were. I like novellas because they're so quick to read, but it always leaves me unsatisfied because I feel like I want more, which is the opposite of a novella. So then I went into a more YA book, and this is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. One thing I want to point out, if you read this book, this is more geared towards if you are in high school. And something to point out, which I wasn't aware until like I started reading this and like the author explains it. This takes place in Britain, and basically there's some school terminology. If you grew up in the American education system, it's not going to make that much sense to you. She does have a section in here where she kind of breaks down like terminology. I don't know if you can say colloquialisms or just like slang. This is about Bradley and Celine. They are ex-best friends. This does take place in, might be senior year of high school. Do they have senior year? What? Last year of a high school equivalent education. They are both ambitious kids. They ended up not becoming friends because Bradley kind of went more popular and Celine kind of stayed not popular. This is like new age stuff, so there's TikTok in here. She has her own TikTok where she has quite a big following, and she does the most random conspiracy theories, which I don't even think she believes. She ends up learning about this retreat with a very well-known prominent lawyer that she looks up to, and she applies for it and she gets in. And Bradley ends up finding out about it too, and he ends up going along with it. And they kind of reconnect their friendship through it, and she discovers what she really wants to do with her life, and he kind of discovers what he wants to do, even if he's disappointing his family. It was cute for what it was, but I think I would have enjoyed this more if I was 15 years younger. I feel very weird when I read something that is truly, truly YA, but it's fluffy, it's cute, it deals with, you know, things that teenagers deal with, and I liked it. But I only gave it 3 stars because I'm a little too old for this. Another YA book I decided to read is Asylum by Madeleine Roux. I think that's how you say her name. I bought this forever ago. It's one of my older books. This is YA because it takes place with teenagers. You have Dan, who is the main character. He goes to the summer program, which takes place at an old asylum, and he meets Abby and Jordan there. Weird things start happening because basically they're dorming in what used to be the old asylum. It's a college prep, it's like a college prep program that they're in, and weird things start happening. Dan is described as someone who has like episodes, and it doesn't really delve into what that is. It's interesting. It's not as creepy as you would think. I think it's because it's more YA, or maybe because I'm older and like things don't creep me out as bad. I enjoyed it. I gave this a 3.5. I know there's a second book, but I don't know if there's like a third or fourth book with it. Basically, it's these kids trying to navigate what they're feeling at this place and figuring out like what is actually going on, and it's interesting. On one hand, I find anything about asylums just completely fascinating, but on the other hand, it's what these people went through in asylums is so horrific, and I just kind of think you should just let them be. Like, I will always watch when there's like a ghost hunting at an asylum, but I personally would never go. I don't know how I feel about the supernatural. I want to believe something's out there, but I also just don't want to bring that bad juju in. I like this. I will probably eventually pick up the second book, but this is back when books were $9.99, and like this next one I'm going to talk about was $19. I have this palette from Get Stoned. I bought this on the TikTok shop. Like, I hope you can just see how pretty this is. It's an all shimmer palette. I'm going to go in and put some shimmers on my lid inner corner and all that while I talk about the last 3 books that I read. So I finally read Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is my first book from Ali Hazelwood, and this is her first paranormal book. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I actually did quite like it. Like I've said before, I am a sucker for vampires and werewolves. I absolutely love them. This was an interesting take on werewolves and vampires. You have Misery, who is kind of like a misfit vampire. She kind of just doesn't fit in with vampires. She's lived most of her life in human territory, and she just doesn't feel like she fits, and she ends up becoming the arranged marriage to a werewolf called Lo. She has her own reasons for agreeing to the arranged marriage because she is trying to find somebody, which I will say, when I don't know if I just wasn't paying that much attention when I first started the book in like the first like couple chapters. Misery like is kind of talking about someone and like you don't learn who that is until like a little bit later. Maybe I just missed it, but that's my takeaway of it. On the day of their wedding, they don't meet before that. She is thrown off by how attractive he is, and he is thrown off by how she smells because apparently they are fated mates, and she can't feel the pull because fated mates are only with like werewolves. They feel it and she doesn't, so she fights her attraction for him, and he basically tries to not give anything away to her, and he fully believes that they are not compatible. I don't really have anything much to say for this other than I liked it. I believe that there is going to be a second book because the ending kind of leans towards a spin-off with another set of characters, and that sounds so interesting. I'll be very happy if she decides to continue the storyline. I thought it was written pretty well and I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to take Baby Hollow. I put Diamond on my inner corner. I think I'm going to put Baby Hollow like all over. So then I decided to read another vampire story. This is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is basically a queer reimagining of Dracula, and it involves Dracula's first bride and their life together. So I will admit the writing style threw me off a little bit, but once I got into it, I was pretty captivated with it. So it's written from the perspective of, I'm gonna say this wrong, Constanta. She is Dracula's first wife. It's written in a way that this is her last love letter to Dracula. And it starts with how she was first turned by Dracula and the years that follow, how they move around from Romania to other places in Europe, back hundreds and hundreds of years. This is like a polyamorous story. Dracula decides that he wants to bring in a second wife, which would be Magdalena, and then later on, after things happen, they bring in Alexei, who would be his husband, but they were all in like a relationship sort of together. So this explains like how their family lived with Dracula and how it was a kind of a harrowing relationship that they had with him because he was so temperamental and he would have so much anger and he would take it out on them. He would never, and to a point, he would never physically hurt them, but he was manipulative, he was controlling, he was basically, you have to stay with me, I will love you, I will protect you, I do this out of love sort of thing. And it's like heartbreaking, but like what happens to Dracula, it's great. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it like a 3.5 to a 4-star rating, somewhere in between there. I really did enjoy it, and I'm interested in reading more from S.T. Gibson. I do know that the author had a book come out not too long ago, An Education in Malice, which takes place in one of the Ivy League schools on the East Coast. Can't remember which one, but that sounds so interesting, very dark academia, and I kind of want to pick that up. So I'm gonna do liner. I have a problem. So I have all of my liners here, and I swear like all of my black liners are drying out, and it's driving me insane. So I'm gonna try this NYX Epic Wear waterproof liner and talk about the last book that I read, which I literally just finished this at like 7 o'clock yesterday. I'm filming this on the 1st. I'm hopefully uploading it today, but I finished this literally 7 o'clock last night. This is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I will admit, from the cover, I didn't think I would be into this as much as I was. I gave it a 4-star rating. It is a pretty highly rated book. It could be 5 stars if I was like into it more, but for what it was, I thought it was actually pretty cute. So you have Viv, who is an orc, the green gal here. She basically puts down her sword and she's like, I'm gonna start a new life and I'm going to open a coffee shop. Is this brown? This is brown, whatever. So her only issue is she finds a place where she wants to open the coffee shop, and the issue that then arises is that nobody in the area even knows what coffee is. Like, they know what tea is, but coffee, I guess, is a gnomish invention, and it hasn't reached, you know, widespread around the world. But she ends up meeting Cal, who, I'm gonna be so bad with this because honestly I can't picture what these people look like, because I know what orcs look like, obviously, and I know that she's a succubus, but for everybody else, I'm not picturing it because I'm not big into like Dungeons and Dragons, which this is. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, you would probably absolutely love this book. But even as someone who, like me, who is a fan of like Lord of the Rings, and like the orcs are totally different, I still enjoyed it. But Cal is like someone who she met on the river who was working on a boat. She employs him to help build or fix up the building that she bought to turn it into a coffee shop, and they start a partnership. And once it's done, she puts out an ad that she needs someone to help run the shop, and she meets Tangerine, who is the pink succubus. She comes in, wants the job, and they start working together, and they open the shop, and it slowly becomes a hit. And then she meets Thimble, who is one of her first patrons. He is always covered in flour, and I think he's a rat or a mouse. I don't know. She employs then Thimble to work in the kitchen, and he makes his own little bakery creations, and it becomes a big hit with the people in town. And then trouble arises, trouble from her past. Oh, it's very cozy. And for someone like me who is not into Dungeons and Dragons, it was cute. Also, I'm not into coffee, so like all those coffee descriptions I like don't care about. But it was cute. I really enjoyed it. There is a second book which is like a prequel to this one, where the story is about Viv as the barbaric orc, I guess you can say, and like her adventures in that part of her life. This liner sucks. But I really did enjoy this, and I don't know if I said it already, 4 stars for this. I am going to hop off and I'm gonna fix this eyeliner, do either mascara or lashes, and something on my lips, and I'll be back to wrap up this video. But that is everything that I read this month. Alright, and here is the finished look. So I ended up going in with the Garters lashes from Kiss, and my mascara was the Too Faced Better Than Sex chocolate mascara. I went in with a little bit of the Urban Decay Heavy Metal Glitter Liner and Grind. I don't think that they make these anymore, which is a big disappointment for me. And then I also went in with the elf like $3 liner. This is in the shade Jet Black, and I just did like the dots, and then I did a little bit of a line kind of around the brown, and then I ended up taking Old Money from this palette and patting that on the brown just to kind of set it because it was just a mess. I did also tight line with the KVD Tattoo Pencil Liner in black. I just did the tight line, and then I did a very little bit on the outer corner. And then my lips are Colourpop Ashton Lip Liner and Lawless Forget the Filler Rosy Outlook Plumping Lip Gloss. Honestly, like, I don't love it. I don't hate it as much as I did, but I don't feel that good in it, but it is what it is. This is less about the makeup and more about the books that I read, but what's done is done, and I need to wash my hair. So I'm gonna wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any book suggestions, let me know down below, and if you want more book content, you can follow me over on my Bookstagram and BookTok. That is Devouring Bookishly. But if you want more makeup and life content, I am artistryxashh everywhere else. All my links are listed down below, so check those out if you would like. Since it's April 1st, I hope that coming into spring, everything goes well for you. Like, fingers crossed that spring is like a new beginning for me. I'm really hopeful that as we get into warmer weather that just things start getting better for me, and I'm so excited to create more content. I planned out pretty much every video for April, and I'm really excited to just sit down and film and create everything that I can. I'm just so excited for that. So yeah, I don't want to ramble on too much. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye. Turn this life into something that you can never own.